organically blunt. No, I don't have a fan on. Does it sound like I have a fan on?
Here's something. It's all good.
It might be. It could be the furnace.
It's
And
all good.
I do apologize if there is any errors going through the mic there. But anyway, we're back. And we're here with Miles from Fermented Plant Extracts. And it's been a while since you've been on the Organically Blunt podcast. But, I want to dive right into things. A lot of us are getting spring fever, especially us in Michigan. Reason being, we don't get that warm weather all year, and we keep getting teased up here. Like tomorrow, it's going to be 62, and on Tuesday, it's going to be 23. So, like, we're getting that fever. We're getting that itch to get that dirt under our fingernails, and that adds me to my first question for you, and that is, what is the first input or ferment that we should hit our dormant soil with to wake up that microbial life that has been sitting maybe under the snow or under that leaf mold that has been built up since last summer, or however your garden bed is set up. Everybody's a little bit different, but kind of the same. And that's one of the questions that one of our friends asked us, and we figured we'd start off the conversation there.
Yeah, man, that's a great question because we're all getting that itch right now to like, we know we're feeling these warm days, and then we're gonna get a cold snap again, and it's like, oh, I almost could have planted some like cold weather stuff, but yeah, we're all feeling that. And I think that to answer like which ferment is best, like I would say like any ferment, any biological you can put down at this time is great. I mean, comfrey, nettles are always kind of my go-tos if for like all purpose. But like kind of something you touched on that's really important is like underneath the mulch, under the leaf mold or whatever, and like that's really key. Is like all winter we want to have our soil covered with something, some mulch layer covering it, so that we don't lose like the wind and erosion, and we maintain that soil. And another really important thing we can do at this time of year is sow a cover crop, like a winter rye or something that's going to come up
Okay.
in these cold days, and just get some roots growing in that soil before our target crop goes in. Just the same way we would do indoor when we set up a living soil bed. The first thing we want to do in it is get something growing in there, get some cover crops going in there. And like winter rye is really good. It comes up in cold weather. It comes up real quick. And then by the time it is time to put your ganja or your whatever crops you're growing in that soil, you just chop and drop that cover crop, terminate it, and just lay it right down on the soil to increase that mulch layer. And that again, like that's a really vital time to add ferments also, because you've just terminated this cover crop. You've laid fresh organic matter on the top of the soil, and you need it to decompose. So feed that lactobacillus, those active saprophytic decomposing microbes, to that soil, and watch those leaves, those grass blades, whatever cover crop you've laid down, and whatever mulch layer you have, just watch that start to decompose and add richness right back into your soil. So that's kind of, those are great ways to wake up the soil, just with adding ferments and biology, adding cover crop, and making sure your soil all season in between growing has been covered with a mulch or a leaf mold or something to like protect it from erosion.
Absolutely. I take all my leaves, and I live in a neighborhood that the homeowners association actually requires us to dispose of our leaves. I absolutely hate it. So and I only am able to save the last leaf fall of the season, and I put it in my bed because otherwise I got to clean my yard. But I make sure that it stays there every season until right up to planting time, because it's protecting so much, and it's also homes for a lot of little animals that are going to be vital to our environment that we might not even think that are going to be important to our environment.
Exactly. Kind of insects that just live outside decomposing things over the winter. We never think of as the kind of beneficials we want to add to our garden, but that's just amazing. I mean, I use all kinds of leaves. We use cottonwood out here. We have a lot of cottonwoods. I see somebody asking about oaks. Like I don't. Oaks are super high in tannin, but they shouldn't be a problem. Like people have told me not to use
Right.
wood chips as a mulch too, but I've never had a problem mulching with wood chips. I don't go crazy
Same.
with them, but yeah,
Right.
I think covering the soil mulching is very important, and it's less unless you're using like a hay that's contaminated with Roundup or something like that. Like it's better to do it than to not, out of fear of like whatever contaminant. I've had people say, "I don't want to mulch because I have fungus gnats or root aphids, so I'm not going to mulch," and I'm just like, that's kind of more reason to mulch. Like you got to like interrupt that life cycle leaving. And I'm like, if you've got bugs in your soil that you're concerned about, whatever mulch you're about to put on your soil, just soak it in something that will kill those bugs. Like I've even soaked my mulch before I lay it down, soaked it in pyganic, and just like when you lay it
Yep.
down, any bugs that are in the soil, you layer down a pyganic laden mulch layer, like those bugs are done. Like they're cooked.
Right. Exactly. And to speak on the oak leaves, where I live, it's a mixture of oak and maple. So like literally, I don't have a choice, and I'm not separating them. So like I have them in my bed, and I haven't had any problems with oak being in there. And,
Curious, like what people's concern with oak is. If somebody's saying that oak leaves are dangerous, I'm curious what the concern like specifically
right.
is. Though.
Yep. I mean, poison oak is a thing here, at least here in Michigan. I've had it, but and it's like poison ivy. But as far as anything else, I haven't had any issues. I really haven't, and
Yeah,
it,
and
it's
poison is not oak. Like oak tree is very like you're not going to get those two confused.
right.
They're only confusing in name.
Yep. Yep. And but I that's what we mostly have here in Michigan is oak trees, and that's about
Right.
90% of what we have. Yeah, and
Very nice.
there's no way around it. They said we get scrub oak leaves that mat up and get gross. Yeah, they do get kind of nasty. I will give it that. Yep,
They get like
definitely.
slimy and mat together and stuff, but that's kind of what you want. That's the good leaf mold that they use in Jadam. That's
Yep,
the basis of Jadam is those matted up leaves that like really provide a home and an environment and a food supply for the microbes that we're looking for. So yeah, young Seng Cho, who invented or Jadam, he suggests that we use that leaf mold to start our preparations. He uses that leaf mold as the inoculant in the preparations, which is, I mean, just shows the power of it. But
right.
yeah, they can mat up. They can provide.
Yep. I think we lost his connection. Is he there? Yep. Well, guys, he'll be back. Hopefully, he didn't lose his connection completely. But it does look like a lot is being killed under there, but really it's not. There's a lot more to the life and the microbial life that we can't see that is going on that you could see under a microscope, and that's what makes it great. Oh, here he is. All right, he's back.
I'm
Yeah, but Kello Midi. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I said that right because it's a spinoff there. I can tell that. I don't watch TV, but I do know what Hello. I'm not gonna say it because of copyright, but we know what your name comes off of. And anyway, they said that under the oak leaves, that the oak leaves kill everything under them. They feel, and I was explaining while you were gone that there's a lot of microbial life that may seem like it's doing that we can't see with our eye that you could see under the microscope, and it would tell you that it is the exact opposite going on, like so much that you can't see.
Yeah, the leaf mold is super rich. I think like whatever is dying underneath them is just being suffocated because they're like holding so much water and trapping air and not giving light.
Yep.
But the leaf mold is super vital, and I've yet to find a leaf that's like a non-toxic, good kind of tree or something that isn't good for leaf mold. It's any leaf
Right.
work really.
Definitely. Yeah. We I've been trying to absorb more of this Jadam stuff myself because I don't know. Once you dive in that wormhole, it's like it can consume you, folks. So I'm just being honest. Like you just want to learn more. At least I do anyway, and that's where I'm at. I've got a lot of retreats and events planned this year that are more around that lifestyle because I wanna absorb as much as I can, and I'm gonna have the chance to meet Matt Powers. I mean, I don't know if everybody knows who he is, but Matt Powers from Regenerative Soil, he's an author. He's going to be at one of our events, and to connect with people like that and to network with people such as Miles also. I'm hoping to meet you in the flesh someday.
Oh, for
Is going to
sure.
be
Oh, for sure.
is going to be awesome. Yeah, definitely. And that dives me to my question. Does this cold spring weather before the sun really bakes the beds, would you say that the microbial life is more, I guess you'd say, dormant, or would you say non-existent?
No, it's dormant. There's like
Yep.
soil life is almost never non-existent. The only place where it's like really
Yep.
non-existent is in land that's been like really mismanaged and abused, and like industrial ag farms where they're tilled like 6-8 times a year. They got ammonium nitrate and all kinds of gnarly chemicals and Roundup applied to them multiple times a year. Like that's the place where like the soil is really depleted. But anywhere where anything is growing, like if something is growing on that soil, like there's microbes in it. If something was
Right.
grown in it recently, like there and nothing gnarly was applied to it, like Roundup or something, then there's likely microbes in there. They go dormant. They don't just die out. They go to sleep. Like every year, a forest after winter doesn't need an inoculation. It just needs the weather to change and everything wakes up. Just like animals coming out of hibernation, the microbes come out of hibernation and they just start going right back to work. This is what they call like colony forming units in the microbial buying game and like the commercial microbial game is that's kind of slang for hibernating microbes. And once they wake up, they really get going. But yeah,
Absolutely.
soil is if you haven't mistreated your soil, if you've grown in it successfully recently, um, then the microbes are there. And sometimes they might not be where they're supposed to be. They might not be in that top layer of soil. They're just a little bit down below wherever the moisture is gathered. And if that top layer of soil dried out too hard, they retreat down to find the moisture and the habitable environment that's favorable to those microbes' needs.
Absolutely. And something I've noticed you've been doing lately, you know, is you've been doing a lot more educational stuff, and I love it. So please don't stop sharing that knowledge because me and everybody in the community, we want to thank you for doing that because that is something you literally cannot get anywhere else. And we love you that you do that. So
Thank you.
that
Well, yeah. Thank you for saying that. And I want to shout out like people like Matt Powers. Like I'm still learning too. Like we're all learning this stuff. We're on the cutting edge of soil science and microbiology right now. Like in an age where this is like a new science. It's a newly recognized thing. I mean, back in the 50s and 20s, we discovered like the nitrogen fixing bacteria, and then the kind of like the research and development on microbes kind of stalled after the Green Revolution, chemical farming revolution, and we're just now coming back to the nature side of it and to the microbe side of it and the soil biology side of it. And like people like Elaine Ingham, Dr. Elaine, rest in peace. She was such an amazing teacher. I'm just trying to follow in the footsteps of the people who have like elucidated all this for me. And like again, shout out to Matt Powers, shout out Gil Carandang, shout out everybody who's out there doing that education. And I will definitely not stop doing it. I love explaining things because it helps me understand them better too. Every time I
absolutely.
explain something, I understand it better. So give thanks. I appreciate you noticing and recognizing and saying that, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Hey, I notice things like that because I'm out there just like the people that I want to cater to, trying to absorb as much as I can. I honestly have the benefit that I don't necessarily take it for granted, and I probably should use my benefit of having a friend that's a geologist a little bit more. But he lives about an hour and a half away, and that's my friend that runs Country Roots Soil and Amendments, and he's a professor, so he teaches class during the week. He runs a soil company, and he's a geologist. And
Nice.
yeah, so anytime I get out there, it's like going to college for free. Like I'm gonna learn something. So like I value that. And you know, that brings me right into my next question for you, and that is what is the most destructible mistake you see new growers and outdoor growers doing to their soil that they shouldn't be?
Wow. Well, I mean, I think we touched on mulch. Like that's a big one. People not mulching. Um, God, this is tough. That's a great question. It's kind of tough. It's like, what is a very common mistake that I see people do in soil, indoors and out? Okay, here's one
Right.
indoor. Indoor, like like every year in fall and early winter, I see people having the same problem, and that's a leaf claw, like a really dark leaf that
Yep.
claws kind of like this, and they're like, "Oh, does that mean the soil's too wet?" And I'm like, "Well, yes, but what's the soil too wet mean? Like wet soil means high moisture, low dissolved oxygen, and roots need oxygen. When your roots
Okay.
get really cold, they also don't have access to oxygen because relative humidity, it's like the humidity is relative to what? The moisture in the air is relative to the temperature. So when you have really low temperatures, you have less capacity in that cold air for holding moisture. Hot air can hold more water. That's why we talk relative humidity. So cold roots have low access to dissolved oxygen, and therefore that you get this claw look, this like heavy feeding, overwatered look. So like keeping the room in a good and like never placing pots or beds on concrete floors is like a huge one I see people do all the time. Where I'm just like, yo, your roots are getting cold, and like your microbes don't love like concrete is dead and it kills shit. So like don't don't put your soil on concrete, even if you put it on like a piece of foam or up on a pallet, like a few inches air
Yep.
gap. But and like yeah, like soil not on the concrete, which helps keep your soil temperature a little bit high. You got to like stir the air in your room because otherwise you get real stratification of like hot air at the top and cool air at the bottom. And people think that's a good thing. Like, oh, get all the hot air up high, so it's not sitting there on my plants. And it's like, well, no, you're like you don't want cold roots, and that's what's going to
Right.
happen if you have that stratified air. So you need lots of like air circulation, air like moving in the room. And outdoor, I see, man, honestly, I see a lot less people growing outdoor, which is kind of sad. But I think
Yeah.
I think outdoor, a lot of times I see people going out too early. They just get anxious, and I'm like, yo, June 1st, like don't. They're
Yep.
like middle of May, and I'm just like, you better have like supplemental light on them. And they're like, supplemental light? Like, what do you mean? I got to put lights outside? And I'm like, only if you're planting in May, like, because
Right.
and like, yeah. And another thing I see people not planting outdoors in relation to their like their growing season. I'm in Colorado. I'm at 6,000 feet elevation. We got like 100 days of growing season tops where we got
Yep.
snow by Halloween. So like, and I see people planting like this like 10 week sativas, 15 week, 10 week like a Gorilla Glue is like wants 10 weeks or a GMO or a sativa like a haze or something. I'm like, why are you putting that outside, bro? We need like the opposite. We need early turning girls who like flip early and finish like end of September, first week of October, like that. Like so, I see people not planting within their like seasonal limitations. Um,
Right. Yep.
yeah, those are some. And then somebody says get a soil test. Oh, is that you getting a soil test? Yeah, like that's a
Yep.
great suggestion, especially on like soil that you're like new on, like your brand new garden plot.
Right.
Not like new soil, like you just bought it bagged, but like new garden plots, new fields.
Yep. Yep.
Those are great times to test.
That's what I do because my buddy that's a geologist, he charges $35. I mean, pay that $35, figure out what you need, get the amendments, broadcast spread it how you need to put it in your turn it. I mean, not necessarily till, but if you want to turn it in, turn it in. And that's what I do every year, and that is literally what I do. And maybe it's not the right way, but I mean, it's what I do because it's worked for me. You know, I
So
just keep
yeah,
re-amending my.
let me ask you this because I'm interested because I don't do it every year. I do it like every 2 to 4
Sure.
years. I do it every few years because like I was told, and the one time I did test every year, it was just kind of like it was kind of predictable, and I didn't really have that much change. Where like
Right.
I didn't really feel like the test and the amendments and then the measuring and the time and the turning it in was worth it because it was so like minimal. And if I wait 2 or 3 years and I kind of re-amend on my feelings and instincts in the meantime, those 2 or 3 year tests are like a little bit more revealing of like, oh, what is
Yes.
it? What am I like removing from the soil and not thinking to replace? Or what am I not replacing in the high enough yields? Or, so
Right.
that's always interesting too. But I'd be curious, like, do you see that? Do you see like a lot of in your year to year like tests?
I
You have
don't. No.
not big swings, huh?
No. Honestly, you know, if I've been growing in this will be my sixth season in my plot, and I'd say that the swing in re-amending is about 2 to 3 years. And the reason I say that is, you know, I really top off very simply. I put some basalt down. I put some country roots worm casting down. I put down some of their compost. I mix it all in. I might add a few other things that he has mentioned. I can't think of them names off the top of my head. I got a whole closet full of them. And bless you. Um,
Thank
but you know, we kind of develop a recipe, and he just kind of looks at it, and he's a professional. Don't let me claim the title here. I am not a soil expert. I'm just a guy that kind of follows the advice of people that are above me. And they say, "Oh, I add a little bit of this, I add this." So yes, I guess you could say I'm a recipe follower when it comes to my soil, but my recipe is also doctored completely to my region and to that soil that I'm literally growing in. Like I take a sample, and you don't need more than a teaspoon. That's where people fail to realize when it comes to soil. Like you really don't need to bring a whole big bag. Like literally,
you.
you only need a spoonful. Like that's all we need, and he'll break it down and he'll figure out what you need to add to it, and you just depending on how big of an area you got, he'll cater it into what he's the guy that's the guy. You know, like me
Yeah, dude.
personally,
I
I
love that
don't.
expertise in people. I got so much respect
Right.
for them. Shout out Zach Branson at Build a Soil, who's done ours for a while, and like he's
Sure.
always on top of it. And shout out your country roots, man. Like the people who can do that. Soil
Yep.
doctor, he's the local guy out here by me that a lot of people know. He does great work on that, like soil tests and stuff. So yeah, shout out the knowledge and the intuition of like people knowing, like really going deep on the soil test and knowing like what parameters we're supposed to stay within. I have an
Yep.
idea of it, and I have like a spreadsheet that a friend of mine made and gave me a long time ago that kind of shows the ranges. And but I haven't by no means memorized that, and I love watching people's minds work when they look at it and can like it's like this internal math. It's really beautiful.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I meet guys at events like that, and they're like so smart. It's like they're literally a walking computer compared to what I am. And they're like, "Oh, you got to put this much of this in, and add a little bit of this, and that." And I'm like, "Hold on, can you like write that down a minute? Like, hold on, I can't keep up. Like, and how do you know like the exact like wow, like they definitely put their time in, and I'm not mad at you. I just unfortunately I work a day job too, so like I don't get to absorb as much as I want to. But
It's just cool to see people's range of knowledge in different ways. It's just really
right,
exciting to watch everybody doing it in different ways, and I'm always official like
yes,
appreciative.
right, absolutely. So you know, if an outdoor grower, you know, basically foraged in their backyard right now, what type of like obviously spring? I'm saying like no more cold weather, maybe no more frost after the last frost day. They want to go out and they want to forage and they want to make their own, ferments and everything, what are some of the things you'd recommend that they keep their eye open
Well, we already talked about leaf mold. If you got a pile of leaves, like JLF and JMS, the two main Korean and Jadam recipes, the Jadam liquid fertilizer and the Jadam microbial solution. Both of those are the inoculant is rich. They rich soil, but they primarily suggest that leaf mold, those matted, wet, decaying leaves, and all it takes is like a handful in a bucket, like
for?
a
Okay.
small handful in a 5 gallon bucket, and like a heaping handful in a 50 gallon drum for a 40 gallon trash can. And I mean, those recipes are so simple, so streamlined. Literally, all you need to make them is water, soil, and like plant matter. And it's like if you don't, that's like those are natural things that every single farmer is going to have: is soil,
Right.
plant matter, and water. If you don't have one of those three things, you might like second guess trying to farm. That's so
Yeah.
it's really Jadam is a great resource. I would suggest everybody get the Orange Jadam gardening book, and
Okay.
um, those
I'll
are
have to
super
pick that
simple
up.
recipes.
Yep.
I can go over the recipes right quick with you if you want.
That would be cool. There's a
Yeah,
lot
let's
of
do it.
new people, me included. I haven't gotten that book. I got a whole bookshelf to my left here.
Yeah,
It'd be
let's do it.
your guys is right, but I collect books and I try to get as much knowledge as I can. So I definitely will be picking this book up.
Yeah, I don't know where my copy is. I wasn't thinking about talking Jadam, but yeah, let's go. So the Jadam liquid fertilizer is it's basically using like makes like the way I use my ferments, where comfrey makes more vegetative. Comfrey is leaves and stalks. It's going to make more leaves and stalks. Fruit, like a peach or pumpkin, is a fruit. It's going to make more fruit and buds and plant matter of in that manner.
Wow.
So in Jadam, he says like if you're growing strawberries, you would take like there's strawberry plants and root and berries that like you don't sell, your crop residue, your extra. In our case for ganja, we would be using like our trim. If you washing your buds, you could use your post wash buds, your root balls, and all your stalks. So like any crop residue you have, waste material, you just put that in a bucket of water with a handful of soil or leaf mold or compost or earthworm castings, whatever rich, microbially rich, beneficial you have, and you got it. That's not all farmers do. If you had nothing else, you could use the soil out of your bed of your like your build a soil 3.0 would work. We add a little root wise and a little bit of ferment in the soil before you scoop it out. Like get it nice and wet and inoculated. Use that leaf mold you find outside, a good scoop of compost, anything you got, and a bunch of plant matter. However much plant matter you got, like some people fill it all the way up with plant matter. Some people like just put a proportionate amount in, but the more the better is like more is good. You don't less
Sure.
isn't better in this way. So then you just wait and you just give it like he gives different time frames for different ones, but it's generally a couple weeks. And this will start to smell really bad. Like this is a funky press. And like JLF, we do not foliar spray. I don't suggest
Right.
because it's got those, all those different microbes in there that you from the soil. And you don't aerate this, you don't stir it or anything. You literally just put the plant matter in and you put the soil in and you just let it go. And you can like add water back. Like if you use half of it, you can just add more water. If you can
Okay.
like set these things up outside and just leave them forever. Like just fill them up with water, add more plant matter, add more soil. Like over time, if they freeze, it's fine. You just like when they thaw, just add some more water and wake them back up. Add some more soil, wake them back up. And that's just the most basic of liquid fertilizers. Literally like a plant tea inoculated with the microbes from your soil. Super basic plant based fertilizer. Water,
Absolutely.
plant matter, soil. Nothing to it, right?
No,
The,
and it's recycling too. So like you just keep reusing, and what is being grown is feeding the growth. So like growth is feeding growth. So like that's the
right.
way you guys got to look at it. Definitely.
Yeah, a healthy plant contains basically what is needed to grow another healthy plant in it within itself. And
Yep.
we're adding that down and into the water and breaking it down and taking all the nutrition present in that plant matter, microbially digesting it and putting it into the water. Um, so the next one is Jadam microbial solution, and this is like a Jadam microbe tea, like a compost tea kind of, but very simple. Um, I can't remember the exact measurement, but it's basically you take boiled potatoes
Wow.
and you with like a little bit of salt, like it's like 5 pounds of potatoes and like 10 grams of salt or something crazy. I can't remember the exact recipe, but it's online. But you're not going to mess it up if you use too little salt or too much
Mhm.
potatoes. But it's like a nice little chunk of potatoes and
Okay.
salt and a little bit of dirt, a little bit of compost, or just like leaf mold, same thing as the other recipe. And you kind of mash that up together and you put it in a mesh bag or like a t-shirt or anything, and you suspend it in the middle of your bucket, like with a stick or like a string across the top of the bucket or something, and you suspend that bag in like a tea bag with the mashed potatoes and the soil that's all been mixed up, and the salt in the water. And what's going to happen? You'll watch it. You just watch that water for a few days, maybe a week, and you'll see bubbles start forming in the water on the surface
Okay.
of the water. There'll be rings of bubbles, and you'll see them get fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller. And the rings of bubbles they'll just hit the ridge of the water where the water meets the bucket, and then they'll start to come back in. And you want
Wow.
to grab it. You want to grab it before, like right before they start coming back in, or right as they start, because that's the population, literally like the microbial population populating the bucket from the inoculation point outward. It's like a petri dish, right? And
Wow.
you can see the microbes kiss the bucket side, and then that's them like recognizing. It's called quorum sensing when a microbial population has like a universal consciousness. They kiss the side of the bucket and they're like, oh, that's the edge of our environment. We're full, and then they start to like decay. That's like the peak
Wow.
of the wave. So that's when you gather, and both of these you dilute. You don't use them straight.
Okay.
God, I wish I had the book like handy, because I don't know the dilution. I would say like 20 to 50 to 1 or something like that. It's like 5 gallon bucket and a 50 gallon bucket would be 10 to 1. So I don't
Yep.
remember how much you dilute these, but they're both concentrated. Like you don't use them uh,
Sure.
full
You don't.
strength.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you said it's the orange book. If it's the only orange book that has to do with this kind of stuff, you're not gonna miss it, guys. I mean,
No, you
I'm
won't miss it.
I'm gonna pick one up because I'm definitely interested in learning more about this stuff. Like always, I go to an event which I'm gonna have the chance to meet Matt at this year, called
I'm stoked for you.
Camp Compost, and it's the most spiritual event. Last year I didn't do a lot of coverage from the event because I had a chance. I was going through a lot personally on that level to where I put the phone down and I let the event absorb into me at that event, and it was the most spiritual event I've ever been to in my life. I mean, we had Chris Trump there last year, and he made his IMO, and people were literally taking baths in the IMO and connecting with the earth that way. I've never seen anybody do that in my life. At first, it was a little weird, I'll admit, but after I got more into the people and learned that it was a way of them connecting to the earth and feeling grounded even more, I understood it. Like I wasn't there to judge, but it was definitely something that was kind of like a culture shock to me.
No, that's a trippy little experience to it's like a communion with the earth in a different way. It's like you
Yep,
bury yourself in the soil and do the like dirt sauna.
yep.
It's trippy. It's like a communion kind of experience. And yeah, I do that. I make a IMO pile on my farm just about every year.
Wow.
Try to get in that thing. Yeah, Chris has like worked on big farms around here and done that out here, and I'm like, it is. It's like a new cultural experience that, again, like Young Sang and Master Cho really like. like they really gave it up. Like they really
Yeah.
gave so much to us in terms of like sharing that cultural experience and the farming knowledge, the do-it-yourself, the KNF and Jadam empowerment is like, even if you never make OHN, knowing how it's made, understanding why it's made from what it is, understanding it is so empowering. Even if you get it from somewhere else, like the knowledge of why it works and how it works is really like, it's empowering in its own way that like you don't necessarily, I don't know, the application and the empowerment are two different things.
Absolutely. Dr. Drake is a great guy, like Marcus Green said. I just came across him the other day, and I reached out. I wish I had the name in front of me. I'm bad with names. I apologize, folks. But I reached out to a professor that actually had something to do with IMO, and he no longer teaches on it. Like he's retired and everything. And the guy and I will be honest, I used AI to try to find some new guests for the show. And somehow it dug out and found this professor's EDU email. So I sent an email, introduced myself, introduced the show, and the guy writes back to me and he says, "How did you find me? This is not public anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, crap. I'm sorry." He's like, "I'm one of the guys who helped come across what IMO is," and he was some professor. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my
From
head.
what university?
I'll have to get back to you on it.
It
Like,
could have been. It could have been. They did They did studies on KNF in Hawaii.
okay, I think it was in Hawaii though. Yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
funny.
The guy he wasn't mad. He was just like, "How did you find me? I'm retired and I don't publicize this information anymore." And I'm like, "Well, AI found you right off the bat." Like,
that's funny. That's cool, man. So is he gonna be on
yeah.
the show? I hope
No,
so.
he was like, he's like, "I don't do this no more. I'm sorry." And he's like, "I respect what you do, but I don't teach on these teachings no more." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry." Because I would thought it would have been cool to deep dive into IMO, It would have been a cool conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
talk about where it got its start and its originality and all this and that. And definitely,
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, respect to everybody's like choices. I think it's like, to me, that kind of just illustrates like where people are like passionate about it, and
Yeah.
like where, like life goes on too, like where there's a season for things, and he might just pass through that season and he's on something else now. His passions are in some other realm and he wants to apply himself there, whatever it is. But it's exciting that there are people passionate about that do want to talk about it still, because it is an ongoing like developing thing that's going to be viewed in history as like this, like as a different kind of revolution, like the real green revolution, not like a farm chemical industrial, war machine derived fertilizer regime that's like basically about getting crops to the front lines more so than getting like a well nutrition, like people, healthy soil systems that are gonna like last and maintain themselves for generations. So this
Yeah.
is kind of like where we're we're gonna be viewed in the course of history as like in a very favorable way, I'd say, and I hope that like the cannabis community is recognized in that, because it has been like a huge part of like pushing regenerative ag, pushing living soil, pushing the resurgence of composting and everything. So yeah, like give thanks to Elaine Ingham again, because she really legitimized our community by working with us and using cannabis farms as like parts of her research. I feel like that's really important that we become legitimized in those ways, and so that we can like be viewed in history in a positive, rightful way.
Absolutely. I I kind of regret because I reached out to her, and we had a chance last season. We were gonna have her on the show, and she got busy, and I got busy, and we had to reschedule. Well, obviously
Holler at somebody from what's it called? From I mean, yeah. Obviously, that's not gonna happen now. Rest in peace, my
Right.
love. But there's like,
Yep.
I would say that there's. I can't remember her name. I met some people from that organization. I can't remember what it's called. The school, Soil Food Web School, and
Yep.
then there's like a
Yep.
certain compost company that was like right. I want to say Biovast, but I don't think it was Biovast. But they're great too. But yeah, I can't remember. But there's a lot of people who came out of that school that would be cool to have on.
Absolutely. I talked to the school, and that's how I connected with her. And then they gave me her personal email, and they were like, "We think you need to talk to her directly instead of the school." Because I contacted the school, and then they were like, we got into contact, and was gonna have them on, and then somehow I lost my whole calendar for like the remaining of the year. It just like disappeared out of my phone, and like everybody I had in there lined up disappeared. So like I was like, "Oh, that's great." Now I don't remember who I had, excuse me, scheduled, and like I also had some, which I gotta find them again. They were nuns from Mexico, and they live on a compound, and they actually grow and medicate with cannabis. And I thought that would have been really cool to share
Yeah,
their story. Yeah,
well,
like
Sisters of the Valley.
I think it
They're
is Sisters of the
they're
Valley.
yeah, I think they're in SoCal or something. But yeah, they're really active right now. They've become really like outspoken right now because of the like political climate. So
Wow,
they'd be really cool. I feel like they would love to have your platform, and they would have a lot of really
absolutely.
cool things to say. I got a lot of respect for them.
Yep, and I think that might have been who it was. It was one of the sisters I was dealing with directly too, but it was really cool. I heard about him on another podcast, and then I was like, man, that's the kind of stories that I thrive off of, is the ones that you don't hear of.
Yeah,
And
man.
because I guess it's a little bit of the Indian folklore in my family, sit around, we pass the pipe around, and we hear the stories of people around us. And I try to create that digital campfire feel with my show. I try not to be too structured on anything. I might have a couple notes, but most stuff comes right from my head, and it's live,
Love,
so nothing's choreograted to be scripted, and that's just how I am.
I love
But
it. No, I love the campfire reference.
yeah, yeah, and that's how the events are for me here in Michigan. As we near closer to the event season, my first event kicks off in May at Country Roots Farm. We do a whole weekend of foraging. I'm talking rock hounding, learning to make ferments,
Yeah,
all that stuff. So, like, if anybody ever wants to come out and educate you, like, if you said, okay, I'm going to take a trip out to Michigan, just because you want to,
dude, I
you let
do. I just
you let
yeah,
me
we'll make
know, and
it at some point.
I'll put you up on being a speaker and everything. Like, I'll make the connections happen that you need to happen, because
I love that. Yeah.
it would be awesome. We have a lot of cool different people that come out every year. The Mendo Dope Boys come out here, and it's just it's an atmosphere here that people, when they come to Michigan, they don't really understand how agricultural based we truly are until you visit here, and then you're like, I see why they are the way they are, and is because a lot of ag goes into a lot of everything we do here. So not everywhere, but at least in the good area. I call it the good areas.
The
But
country
hey,
club. Yeah.
I'm country, so I guess I'm not really a city folk. I apologize.
No, but that's like the good life is out there, and it's like, but it's a different kind of life too. It's like a different kind of independence, and
Yep,
uh, you know,
it is.
counting on
Yeah,
things differently. But being near agriculture is really great. You have where I live. I have really great access to high quality ingredients, to good meat,
heck
to good
yeah.
dairy. So
Yep, yep. And my other friend, he owns a pig farm. So we got good pork here. He feeds his pigs literally his trim. Like, his pigs eat the leaves, like, from when he defoliates, and it's
yeah,
amazing. amazing some of the stuff that, you know, just a simple trade like that can offer a different kind of food that you might feed them versus giving them that. You can taste the quality difference. I mean, I can't even explain it. I don't know how to explain it. So you have to try it to believe it.
Bro,
But
quality in, quality out, just like growing, just like everything
yep,
else, raising animals, quality in, quality out.
definitely.
For real.
So, you know, how do you adjust your KNF inputs to be the maximum they can be, like during the vegetation window when you want the most growth without pushing the envelope? Like, is there such thing as giving them too much, or is it kind of like when you give a plant top dress and amendments? It's only going to take up what it needs.
Well, with KNF specifically, like it's you're always giving like super low doses,
Okay.
and it's like foliar spray and root, like just right around the root ball. Um, so that's like the way I would describe KNF is it's more about signaling. It's less about like providing nutrition or like that high amounts of like microbes as an inoculant. That's like mostly the IMO, the compost material we add to the soil. Or sometimes you can make like the liquid IMO. But for the most part, KNF inputs are like signals to the plant where like we're giving it them at certain points of their growth and signaling like this is veg time. And then
Okay.
before the plant even gets the trigger for its hormonal change into bloom, the light switching, before that happens, we're like sending a signal to say like bloom is about to happen. There's like a changeover solution. And just like with my products with the fermented plant extract, we go from a vegetative phase nutrient, and then I suggest hemp as transition, or you can mix a veg and a bloom newt, and you can start feeding that right before you flip the light or right before the seasonal changes start, so that even before the plant hormonal trigger hit, a nutritional signal, and it's not like a bunch of nutrients. It's just like uh, it's enzymes and biostimulants and lactones and all kinds of different um, soil compounds, I guess you could call it, plant byproducts
Okay.
that are going into these KNF products that are like in the vinegars, in the syrup, in the OHN. You're signaling the plant to grow in different phases. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's the KNF like way is low amount, very like 4 to 8 ml per gallon of most inputs in KNF, and that's so low, compared to like with fermented plant extract. I'm suggesting 1 to 4 ounces. That's 1 ounce is 30 ml. So there's a lot more like being added in a fermented plant extract than the KNF, FFJs, and FPJs. Those are very low dose.
Sure. That
Yeah.
dives me into my last question that I do have for you for this evening, and that is for the people that might not have the knowledge or might not have the time or might not have a little bit of both, and they want to be able to use this type of product. Obviously, you manufacture it. And so, where can people find your products at? And you know, um, I guess my definitely, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
would be my question.
Well, buildasoil.com is my number one. That's my homie's distributor. My website, fermented plant extract, you can get it direct from me. You can get it from Build the Soil. Probably best shipping, quickest shipping is through Build the Soil. So those are the sources. There are some grow stores around the country that are supplied by Build the Soil that will have them on the shelves from time to time. Um, I don't know how widespread that is, but I do know some stores around the country. I should know one in Michigan off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, we're always looking to stock the shelves at grocery stores. Jeremy does great, like wholesale bundles for stores from time to time, and wholesale sales as well. So, and my website, fermentedplantextracts.com, is always a great source.
Awesome. Yeah. Everybody knows Build a Soil, obviously. You know, Jeremy does great things. He does great knowledge. He's a great vital piece to this community, just like everybody else here. We all got a slight piece of the puzzle that we all make a big picture here. And, you know, that picture is beautiful. We're all coming up with beautiful plants and growing great things. And, you know, I've tried your product firsthand. I'm still using it. You know, I got the comfrey, and I let my buddy here that at Country Roots try it, you know, and see it, and they liked it. You know, they like what you're doing. Keep up the art. You know, it is an art. You know, and what can we expect from you in the near future? Anything new? Anything we should follow?
Hmm. I want to do
Anything?
more podcasts like this. I don't know. Don't. I'm gonna keep y'all on your toes. I don't know even know what to expect, but I'm
Okay.
gonna keep making ferments. I'm gonna keep doing education. I'm trying to work with more like what I really want to do is integrate what we do in the natural farming world, KNF, Jadam, and like integrate it more into like certain white papers at universities to legitimize what we talk about. So it's not just some like ganja frou whatever. So
Right.
it's like people are like, oh no, like that has papers behind it, you know, peer reviewed that like have taken time. And like this is what I'm talking about earlier about like establishing our like our what we've done, like making our mark. And I'm like, well, you know, putting something into reality that other people can reference and say like, oh yeah, like that's not just some like yeah whatever. It's not just stinky water. It's something real. And like that, like KNF has had some studies done by I was talking about earlier from University of Hawaii. I think Young Sang was just got like a PhD or something. Like you know, so like there's studies. Yeah, I think that was in Korea. It's in Korea though. But
Wow.
those studies, this is becoming codified. Like what we're talking about here, like isn't just talk. You know, it's becoming
Right.
codified in science and in through universities, and that's where we're going to make the change in the big ag and then the scaled up industrial farming to really implement more biologicals to save our soils, to increase the nutrition in our foods. And like that's kind of the bigger vision that I have in reality is like so much farther past ganja. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, but I'll take ganja with me everywhere I go, literally and figuratively, and like so that's never going to change. I
Yep.
don't believe. And but what also isn't going to change is that the soil is depleted, and we got to do something about that. And
Right.
it's bigger than our little tent grows and our ganja grows. What we do in our tents and what we do in our little ganja gardens or veggie gardens out in our backyard, like does still have power and potency in the big picture because we can like see verifiable results. We can say like, oh, that did work, or I didn't really see results from that. We can like learn the right processes of doing things to make compost correctly, to like get the book and learn the Jadam recipes and do it yourself and learn the like structured formula of doing it correctly as by the book, literally. That's why Elaine's class, that Dr. Elaine's Soil Food Web class school is so important. That it is putting out all these people who have the technique and the process in place. They've like codified the knowledge into a practice that's like works for everybody, and that's some like that's really valuable. I love that's happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it makes you wish that this knowledge was it was there, but it wasn't publicly shared. But imagine if it would have been 20 years ago, where it's at today, how much even 20 years in the future we could possibly be, and we're still only hitting the tip of the iceberg there because there's so much that we are basically rediscovering. A lot of this organics and other style growing and KNF and Jadam is, as you can see, been around for so long in practice that if it would have been more mainstream how much different things could have been. You know, a lot of us could have been a lot more healthier than what we are today.
I mean, yeah, and I think that like if you look at the history of it, there's for sure like a track record of how this like our trajectory was diverted because we had like invested so heavily in war that
Right.
and like this concept of like the power of an empire is how quickly and efficiently it can get food crops from the center of the empire where they're protected and safe to the front line of where the battles were going to be happening to conquest new land. And the untold story there is the reason why they're conquesting new land is because they're depleting the soil and literally need new dirt to like grow on. And it's like this is verifiable through history of empires like collapsing based on the depletion of their soil. So this is like the magnitude of what we're working on here is really big. Like I said,
Right.
it's beautiful because it's bigger than our ganja garden. But this is like the people who smoke herb. It's like I feel like you open your mind up a little bit and you can kind of like
Yep.
see the bigger picture, and you're like, oh yeah, like we are like getting back to something that we didn't ever need to go away from. We
Right.
should have like focused on the soil and really
Yep.
like there are cultures that did. There are like but yeah, globally now we have to refocus on the soil.
Right. I follow another podcast that actually got me into like gardening before I even got into ganja, and that was the No Till Farmers podcast. And but it's so AG that a lot of people don't connect with me when I start talking about stuff they talk about, like soybean crop, and like people don't discuss that stuff unless you're like from my area. Like when I go to the events, so like ganja has brought a front seat, but this year I'm doing things a little bit different personally too on the channel, and we'll see how the community reacts to it. I'm gonna do a little bit of just regular gardening stuff too, cucumbers and cherry tomatoes and beefsteak tomatoes, and I would do a lot more. And you're like, well, that ain't a whole lot for a garden, but I don't want to waste neither. I'm gone a lot, so I'm gonna be growing things that I would personally use up without waste. Yeah. Yep.
Dude, like,
So,
no, I think you should. Like, I always encourage people to branch out and show more if you're doing it, and
yep.
because you can always relate what we learn and know from ganja to a
Right.
tomato. You can like just like I was saying with signaling, you can say like, oh, look at I can see my tomato plants are starting to make the little flower, the parts that will
Yeah.
become flowers that will become fruit. I'm gonna start signaling it now with a pumpkin and peach, not just the comfrey, and I'm going to
Yep.
start signaling it with a mix of those for flowering soon come, for fruiting and making big fatty tomatoes for me soon.
Absolutely. Yes. Definitely. I want to get more into. I want to get more into doing a little more content that is family acceptable. Not that I don't love the ganja or the cannabis, but being every video I put out gets age restricted. It's kind of like, can I get something out there that people could actually see a little bit more? Like,
On a different channel, if you met, not on this one, but you're going to be ages. As look at bro, I'll tell you, this background alone is like going to grab the algo. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, I know, yeah, I
but
know,
like But like you can make more tomatoes when you're doing your tomato stuff or whatever, veggie or soil or
yep,
but like I love what you're doing. I'm like even in the face of all this like, tech censorship, so to speak, like we keep together as a community, we keep doing our things. We're like
right,
all these platforms gonna recognize soon our value and like not be so I don't know, judgmental or whatever, like hiding us as if we're some like dangerous crowd. And I think that overall, the cannabis like community is like it's not like physically necessarily literally maturing. I mean, we are all aging, but like it's also just like the image of us is maturing. Where there's like that like Harold and Kumar fucking Cheech and Chong kind of like dumb thing is like we're not really like nobody embraces that. Like nobody's like thinks that's a bygone era, you know. So that's a
Right.
cool that's cool to like be a part of, to be like more the cerebral, intellectual, like literally heady ganja people crowd that are more like into the thoughtful and the intuitive and the like science and focusing on our little passion projects and you know
Right. Yep.
stemming out on our fucking knowledge geek out. Yeah, I love it. I love this thing.
Absolutely. And you know, you might not know this, and a little more insight before I let you go here, because we're gonna wrap things up here in a second. But your show that you had with me the first time was our most viewed episode in the history of Organically Blunt. People love the knowledge you share, and I wanted once again to thank you for coming on and sharing it because, you said it yourself, this is a craft that we got to continue to bring to the forefront because I feel people are literally going to eat it up, and it's coming. Our time is coming, and people are going to want it so much that they're not going to realize it's been here the whole time.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of what you're doing and providing for the community. So give thanks for that. Give thanks to
Yep,
everybody in the chat, like hollering and talking and watching live, and yeah, everybody who tunes into these things and checks it out is like, just drawing the thing together. We're just drawing this thing tighter, so we're like more of a front, and we can all know, like, share the same knowledge, and someday we'll
definitely.
be like the microbes where we can quorum sense and like communicate like separate from the. It's pretty dope the technology, It's pretty dope, but
Oh,
we'll transcend
technology
even this.
blows my mind every day. I just got into 3D printing myself, and
Cool.
I got it over here running, not right now, but usually. And to take something and I explain things different than most people. I'm very layman's terms. To take a spool of plastic that looks like something you'd put on a weed whacker, put it into a machine, and go to bed or leave for the day and come back and you have something in a box, in a chamber, I call it, that has been created. It's a tangible product. It still blows my mind that I'm able to do that. Like,
It is crazy. Yeah, the technology is nuts. I love it.
yeah, it's crazy. So, with that being said, you're welcome back at any time. Where can people find you once again on Instagram at Fermented Plant Extracts, correct?
Yep, at fermented plant extracts, and then at WSTG.apparel. The Weed Should Taste Good Insta got took away, and I'm building that back little by little. But yeah, at fermented plant extracts, at WSTG.apparel, weedshouldtastegood.com, fermentedplantextracts.com. Everybody knows it, but I'll shout them out. Buildasoil.com, of course, the distributor. And
Absolutely.
yeah, man, give thanks. Whenever you want, a few months or next year or something, we'll jump on this again. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
Always.
Sometime we'll get up. Sometime definitely we'll have to sesh out.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, you enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, if you can't stay lit, stay organically blunt. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks.
See.
Drop a seed and feel it grow.